Hi everybody, this is Kimberly with Starfish Design Embroidery, and today we are working on one of the Dazzle 2 eyeglass cases. This one is the Flower Power, and I'm only doing this one video for the series because they're all basically the same. The bag is exactly the same. It's just the applique steps might be a little bit different. So I will have a separate PDF for each one. And I'll try and do like ones, but you might have to pay attention to the steps because I won't be able to have pictures for every single one. It's just too much. I know a lot of digitizers don't go as detailed as I do, but I try to do as much as I can, but I just don't have time to do all those PDFs. So anyway, here we go. So what we have today, we have a 3/4 inch strap. I'm going to just do one D-ring connector. You don't need to use a D-ring connector for these, but I'm doing it just to show you. This is going to be my main fabric on the front, and then this, I'm using this vinyl on the back. This vinyl was a little bit thin, so I did put some Decouville light. I'm not sure how you're really supposed to pronounce it, but I put it there, and I left about 1/4 to 3/8 inch. I actually left 3/8 inch because I was planning on using a number 5 zipper, but I grabbed the wrong zipper tape. But anyway, it's about the same. And I left that loose because you don't want that in your zipper. It's too thick. And then the same thing here. This material I got from Blue Calla is so gorgeous, but it's really thin. So I put a layer of Woven Fuse 2 and then the Decouville light. And the same thing, I left it out of the seam allowance. These are the 2 panels for the lining. So this is pieces A, my signature Tula. This is going to be the panel for the main glasses, and then these are for the lenses. And I'm sorry this may not show very well in the video, but and then this is going to be for the zipper tabs on the end. And I had to cut this at the last minute because I actually was planning to use this and I forgot. So you'll follow along on your little cutting chart and make sure you cut everything properly. So I'm going to go ahead and move this stuff out of the way. We won't need this yet. So I'm going to set this aside. We won't need this yet. And then we'll need this in one of our linings and our zipper tabs. So I'm going to set this stuff here. So I've gone ahead and stitched the basic outline. I did get my new presser foot in, but I didn't get a chance to install it. I'm going to try that out. I was recommended by somebody in the group to get one of these other kind that you can adjust the height. Anyway, so here we have our 3 lines for the zipper placement. This is configured for a 1-inch zipper, which is number 3. But I add that middle placement line because we always want to make sure the middle of our teeth, behind our teeth, are lined up with that. So this will work with a number 5 zipper tape as well. So what I do is I go ahead and I'm going to put my zipper, I'm going to go ahead and extend it by a little bit past this here, but we will trim this out. Just to make it easier, I'm going to just extend it a little bit past that, and then we will trim it out when we get to that step. And I have lost my tape. Uh-oh. Okay. Yeah, where's the tape at? I need tape. I think we took the tape in my bedroom the other day. I have another box right here if I can get to it without messing everything up. Where is the tape at? Okay. Let's see if I can get to this without messing up the tripod. I somehow misplaced my tripod that I normally use, so I thought I ordered the same one from Amazon, and I didn't, and I don't like this tripod. It was very hard to set up, but it's set up. So I also tried to get a lapel microphone to see if that would be better, but I couldn't get it to work, so I'm gonna have to look up the instructions and try and figure out how to get that to work. So I'm gonna go ahead and tape down one end. And then those of you who've watched me for a long time know I do what I call walking the zipper down the die line just to make sure it's even. So I go ahead and I place it, and I look for that middle line in between it, and make sure that middle line is over my middle placement line. And then I tape it down on the bottom or the right side edge, depending on how you have this arranged in your hoop. And then once I get the bottom taped, then I tape the top down. Now, you can go and try and be like really bold and not tape anything down, but if it starts to come loose, what are you gonna do? You're gonna reach your finger in there, and you're gonna try and move the zipper and get it back in position, and then that needle is gonna go right through your finger. So I like tape because I don't want to be in the hospital with an emergency surgery. I don't want to be in the hospital. My son's reminding me that I was just in the hospital last month for a week. And I don't want to be in the hospital again. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and tape this down, and then we're going to do the placement stitch, or the tack down stitch. And then it'll get really fun, because we're going to do the zipper tabs. And the way I accomplish this, I can't speak for other digitizers, but the way I do it is I do 4 partial seams, 2 for the bottom, for the lining and tack down, the top stitch, and 2 at the top. And the reason I do that is because I don't want to risk you having to move the zipper pull yourself and then forgetting to move it. And again, what are you going to do? You're going to put your finger in there and you're going to hit it. And I just throw my tape all over here. So now I'm going to show you guys, since I'm remembering this, I actually learned this trick from one of my testers. Normally, I don't cut the stabilizer out behind the zipper until towards the end. But I learned this from one of my testers. She actually cuts it out now, because then you don't have to worry about it being stuck in between the material. So if you see here, you see the little placement that we just did, and just go ahead and trim it out around there. And normally I will use my seam ripper to do that, because I don't want to cut my zipper tape, but my main seam ripper has gotten really dull, and I need to figure out how to sharpen that. Okay, so now you can see with this one. And just kind of guide it along there, softly, slowly, so you don't cut into your zipper tape. Especially this zipper tape, it's actually very sensitive. It's very thin. All right, and then hold the zipper, the stabilizer on the other side, and guide it down on that side. So I'm going to try this. Amanda does it and has great success with it. And then I'm going to go ahead and use my scissors to get to the very end. And there, our zippers are done, and we don't have to worry about it later. You see that? And we're going to be very careful as we move this around. Now next we're going to go ahead and run step 3, which is going to be the placement for our right side zipper tab. And all a zipper tab is it just gives a little bit more stability to the end of your bag, so that your zipper tape doesn't go and get buried into the seam. So just makes it look a little bit nicer. So we're going to go ahead, and here is the placement line. I'm not going to unhoop this. It's actually best not to unhoop this too often, because the more you unhoop it, the more risk you have of your project falling apart. So then we're going to go ahead and put that, so it's just a little bit past that placement line, right on top, or just a tiny bit past it. And then we're going to go ahead and tape it down. And then we're going to go ahead and run step 4, which is the tack down. And then you'll see after the tack down, then you can go ahead and trim off the rest of the zipper. And that way it gets the zipper tape out of our bag seam. So I like to use the applique scissors to do that. And so you'll see I put a nice little reinforcement there so your zipper doesn't come apart. And then just go ahead and trim that extra zipper tape off. And toss that away. Now you want to go ahead and fold this open into the side here. Do not pull it too tautly, because if you do, you will see this threads from your seam, and you don't want that to happen. And I have a thread that I missed trimming, so just pull it gently and then tape it down. And I don't have my boning tool here, but normally I would use my boning tool and try and trim that down a little bit better. And I'm not going to change my thread. I'm just going to leave this blue. It sort of matches, and I'm trying to use it up. Okay, so there we go. So now it's all ready. I'm going to go ahead and top stitch, which is step number 5. And you know, the more you pull this back, the tighter the stitches will look, and also it'll affect how your top stitch looks too. And I do think I have my 9014 needle in here right now. These are just a couple of curing stitches to get it down to the other side. Yeah, I'm going to switch to the 7511. When we get ready to do the satin stitching. I can do it right now, but all right, so now we're going ahead and I'm not going to stop the video because the way I have the tripod set up right now, it's too hard for me to stop it. So I'm going to go ahead and undo the zipper pull, and I'm going to push it about 3/4 of the way down here out of the way. Now, what you want to do is see where your top stitching ended right here. You want to put this tape across there, because what happens is if you leave it open like that, you have a possibility of the presser foot hitting it and getting stuck. And you'll see if it's lined up right when you put your presser foot hoop back on. Does it look like the tape is going to be there? Yes, it is. So we're going to go ahead and run the placement for the left zipper tab. And the same thing, if you can just leave it in place, then do so, because we don't want to take the hoop off too often. But if you need to pull it out, then go ahead and pull it out. I'm going to go ahead and carefully pull away this tape, because this is just a simple 2.5 millimeter basting stitch, so I don't want to lose my placement line there. Okay, so then we're going to take our second zipper tab, and again we're going to place it right over that line, and then we're going to tape it down. And then it's going to do the same thing. It's going to give us a tack down and back tack the zipper, and then we'll fold it open, and we will run the top stitching. So now this is step number 7. And my intention was a little bit off on that, so I'm going to be very careful when I fold this over. So again, we're going to go ahead and remove the rest of our zipper that we don't need. And because we have this back tack in here, you don't really need to worry about, normally you'd want to use a little bit of lighter on the end of your zipper, but because I have that back tap, you don't need to worry about that. Okay, I'm going to tape this down, and then we're going to run our top stitch, and then we'll be ready to start rocking and rolling with our main bag. And try and trim out all these little threads, tails as you go, because if you don't, they're going to get stuck in your seams and drive you crazy. Okay, so let me get these two trimmed out. So now we're going to go ahead and make sure that our zipper pull is down to the right hand side, because we're going to start on the left hand side, and you'll see your needle is positioned right here. We're going to turn this over, and we're carefully going to place one of our lining panels on the back of the hoop. So we want to line it up with the bottom your most straight edge. If you bring it, or doing it like me and it's kind of rough cut, line it up with the bottom of your zipper placement line. And then you want to tape this down on both ends. I usually, if it's a long one, I usually like to tape it in the center as well, because sometimes it'll kind of buckle up when the zipper, when the presser foot is going by it. I really need my other tape. I started using the 1 inch when I first started using this tape, and then I switched over to the 1/2 inch. Thank you, Grayson. Grayson brought my water. Oh, and I forgot, I'm always forgetting to tell you, it's in the PDF. This is poly mesh. No-show poly mesh is what I have hooped. You can use any kind of your favorite cutaway or tearaway. Just needs to be stable enough to support the stitches, and also needs to be stable enough or soft enough to be in the bag, because the stabilizer stays in the bag. And now we want to take our piece that has the Decoville, the seam allowance here. We want that to go right here. So when you want to figure out, especially if you have a positional fabric, how to position it correctly, you lay it the way that it should be. So like, here's the bottom of our bag. This is the top. So you lay it here, and all you have to do is flip it over, and then it'll be in the right position. So I'm gonna go ahead and center this over my zipper tape. You can ignore my extra large cutting on my zipper tabs, because I think I mentioned that at the beginning. I forgot to cut those, so I just kind of had to do it really quickly. Right, I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing. I'm gonna tape these down on both ends, and then I'm gonna tape it in the middle, just to help it stay stable. And then we're gonna do the first of our partial seam. So we're gonna stitch to about right here, then it's gonna switch to another color stop. So you stop your machine and move this zipper pull over. Now I'm using a small pull here, so it probably actually could get around it, and especially if you're on a multi-needle machine, it could, but most single needle machines have bigger presser feet. Like my 350E had a much larger presser foot, and it would not have bypassed that zipper pull. And I didn't line this very well, so I caught some of the Decoville, but that should be okay. So now we're just gonna go ahead and move our zipper pull. So just lift up this panel and pull your zipper pull all the way down to the other end. Lay it back down, make sure nothing has budged, and finish the seam. And it got just a smidge off there, but that's okay. You're not gonna notice it when you do the top stitching. So we're gonna go ahead and flip to the back, and we're gonna flip this down to the bottom. And carefully press the seam allowance with your fingernail or other device. You want to pull it tautly, but you don't want to dislodge your zipper. So I like to tape down at these corners because they like to come up when you're stitching. Okay, and then carefully flip it over and make sure it has not come up underneath, because you can actually see through. And then we're going to move this tape, and we're going to do the same thing with the top. And if I had lined up my Decoville correctly, you see I got a little bit of stitching on there, it would have folded over nice and neatly. But I goofed up a little bit, so I'm going to have to press it a little bit. But it's not too bad. So you just kind of press it down and finger press it. A boning tool is really great for this purpose. And tape this down. And then we're going to go ahead and do the top stitch. So we're up to 11, and as you might guess, this is going to be a partial seam. Now, if you think you can just go right through and miss this, then just go ahead, and you can even change the colors on your machine so it just goes right through. Like mine can. I can see right here it's not going to hit that. But we don't know for sure, so we program it so it does it. So I'll leave it, and you'll see it's going to go right through, and it'll bypass that little zipper pull because it's only number 3. If I had a number 5 on here, for sure it would have hit it. All right, now we want to turn over to the back again and pull up our lining, because we do not want our applique steps to go through our lining. That would look really bad on the back of our machine. Hopefully this is okay. I didn't fold that very well. Okay, trying Amanda's way here. All right, so I'm going to take this out of the way, and then we're going to flip it over. Now, because I have such good the Decoville and the woven fuse, I'm going to switch my needle to the 7511. But because I have that on here, I don't really need to worry about adding extra stabilizer. I should be okay. But, oh, what did I do with the 7511 needle? I just lost it. If you think that you need extra stabilizer, then go ahead and put it in. Uh-oh. I might have to use the 9014 after all. I don't know where I just put the 7511. These needles are so hard to read. Did y'all see me do something with it? I literally just had it in my hand. Oh, there's always something. Well, that's 9014. Okay, well, we're going to stick with the 9014 then, I guess. I just unthreaded that for nothing. I think it'll be okay. 9014 just make the satin a little bit thicker. All right. I have a whole box of needles, but they're buried into the drawer, and I forgot to get them out. My threader doesn't always work with the 9014 needles, so I have to go through the hard way of doing it. And hopefully my old eyes can do it today. The other day, I had such a hard time getting it threaded. Hey, not bad. I'm going to use this blue just to do the placement, but I'm going to go ahead and sorry. I'm going to use the blue for the placement, and then I'm going to switch over to a different color. Now, okay, so we're going to go ahead and run the placement for the applique frames. So this is the part that does vary between the 2 or the 5 different patterns. So you need to look at the PDF and follow what the PDF says to do. And again, we do not want to be trying to cut this or put our fingers in there when that needle is moving. Okay, so now we have the placement. So we can go ahead and lay down this, center it over that placement line. And then we're going to run, this is actually kind of heavy, so I don't really feel I need to tape it down. But then we're going to run the placement for the lenses. Now, you don't have to use different colors, different applique. You could just use one for all of it. Wait, this is getting yanked up here. Oh, well, I knew that was going to happen. So, it got all messed up here, so we're going to have to redo this because my thread. But did you guys see what happened? You know, I swear this happens almost every video I do, and it's a learning opportunity. If I were to go ahead and just keep resuming, it's 99% chance that my hoop is now configured out of whack. So don't do that. Turn your machine off. At least this is how I have to do it on my 500E from Janome. Turn it back on. And then it's going to ask you if you want to restart the file. And you're going to say no, because it's already got a memory now from where your hoop should be. And if you restart it, it's going to just put you in that same position that may be messed up. So, and you should make note of what you were at before you do that. So we're going to go ahead and hold on to the tail this time. And you'll see if we're in the right position when it goes back over the placement lines. I'll probably don't even need that placement line because it's just a circle, but we're gonna do it. Make sure it's done right. All right, now make sure that your lining has not come ajar since we had that all messed up. All right, now hold on to your tail so it doesn't do what it just did. All right, so now we're going to trim away these threads. And you see how that lined right back up on top, so we didn't have any issues with. Anytime I see somebody who says, but I didn't bump the hoop, whenever they have a registration error, almost always, well, did you do anything? I didn't bump the hoop either, but I just had an issue because I accidentally, you know, hit this thread. So that's enough to take it off. So now we're going to go ahead and add our little lenses, and then we'll trim them. I got my tape or my scissors ready way in advance. So let's see, where's my tape at? So we probably just need to put a tiny little piece on each one of these at the top to hold it in place. Just make sure it's centered over there. I cut it a little bit larger because I find that if you cut it a little bit larger, you have a little bit more to hold on to when you're trimming it away, and it's easier to trim it away. So let's go ahead and do this. And now, if I can see what's going to happen right now, if I leave this like this, when it tries to come over here and do this one, it's going to hit this and go like that. So pay attention to stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little piece of tape right here to hold that down. And then again, I'm going to hold my tail. These are going to be psychedelic flower power passes. And I'm sorry, it might be a little bit wonky with the brightness of this vinyl. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and trim away these. And I use the applique scissors. They're the ones that have a paddle in the back of them. Now this is good vinyl. Well, this one does have a little bit of felty stuff on it. So when you're doing the vinyl that has a little bit of felty on the back, I don't know if you can see it in here. It's fuzzy. If you don't keep your scissors straight up and down when you do this, it's going to leave fuzzies at the end. So when you try to do the applique stitch, it's going to split into those fuzzies and give you a very messy look. So keep your paddle against where you're cutting. We're cutting on this side of it, and try and keep it up as much perpendicular as you can and cut around that bean stitch. Now I make it a bean stitch, so if you do accidentally cut into it, it's a triple stitch, and it's likely that the rest of it will hold and you won't totally mess up your applique. And then just turn the hoop around as you go. But you see how when you have the vinyl a little bit bigger than you really need, you have a lot more to hold on to, and it's a lot easier to do. So again, I'm trying to keep my scissors up as much perpendicular as I can. And this isn't a marathon or a sprint. You don't need to, yeah, sprint's what I wanted to say, right? It's more of a marathon. You can take your time. There's no rush. This is all your personal time. You don't have anybody to rush against or time yourself against. If it takes you 10 minutes to do this, it takes you 10 minutes. But the longer you take to do it, the slower you go, the neater your final solution's going to be. And that's what we all want. We want our bags to look professional, like somebody could have gone into some fancy store and paid $100 for our tiny little bag. And you know those bags are out there. I see those people buying those Coach bags for $100 for a tiny little wallet. Just to have a name Coach on it. Some of them aren't even real leather. I'm like, are you kidding me? I don't understand it. So, you know, value yourselves when you're pricing your work, because those people are willing to pay $100 for a vinyl wallet made in China, where probably the people are getting paid $1 per wallet. And, you know, most of the money is going into the advertising, because all those bags have influencers that the companies pay to advertise their stuff for them. And it makes everybody think they have to have it. Now, I'm not going to lie. I've seen some of the Coach bags that are really cute. And I'm like, oh, that's a really cute one. I wouldn't mind having that. But I'm not paying $100 for a vinyl wallet. I can make a vinyl wallet for maybe $5 or $6 in materials. My lining is coming undone over here, so I'm keeping an eye on that. Yeah, you know, you get a little conversation with Kimberly. I'm sorry. Sometimes I'm more quiet than other times. Some people don't like the conversation, but, you know, do you want to just sit here and watch me cut and not talk? That would not be my style. All right. Now, normally I would have just gone ahead and turned the video off and trimmed this out. And if I was a better editor, I might have done that. But I really want you guys to see how long it's taken me to do this, so that you know, do not rush this step. And I can see I didn't do a very good job right here. I'll see if I can pull it up and show you. And once you get past this and you pull this heavy stuff off, try and get in there and clean up that little mess is really hard. So it's best to take the time and do it right the first time, because it's really hard to clean it up afterwards. The other vinyl doesn't have the flannel back on it, so it's not as bad. Okay, so see, right here, I didn't do a good job. So if I don't get that any more trimmed, when the satin stitch comes, it's going to split that, and it's going to be really fuzzy and messy. So I'm going to get these scissors out, these little Kais, and I'm going to go ahead and get these in here. These are super sharp, and I'm sorry, I'm going to have to hold the hoop up. It's the only way I can get it in here, is holding it up. And I'm carefully holding my hoop because I don't want to unhoop my project. I might not be able to get it in there. I might have to go back to the, trying to get it. I'll have to try this again. So, but see, I should have done it right the first time. And it would have been much easier when I had all that vinyl to hold on to. Sometimes what I try to do, depending on how complicated it is move the tack down line back a little tiny bit. But with circles like this, it's hard to do that. Okay, now my lining came undone on the bottom, so I want to make sure I fix that, because I don't want my applique going through my lining. So let me fix that real quick. So always keep an eye on this lining. Now, there is a reason for my madness. Some of you might ask, why don't you just wait and do the top stitch to the end, Kimberly, so you don't have to muck around with the lining like this? The problem with doing it at the end is when you're doing all this movement, it can push, depending on what your material is, it can push the material around, and you could end up getting a bulge up here. That's the reason I don't do it that way. So again, we're going to leave this blue in here. I think I'm going to use the blue. No, I think I'm going to use silver for the inside of the lenses. And then I'll use, I think I'm going to use this blue for the frames. Just be a pop of color. Now this is going to be a little bit harder to trim. And I'm just realizing now I need to remove those stitches in the middle, else you can't trim out the middle part. It's okay because there's going to be a stitch over that in the end, but I need to remember and trim that out. So I can actually probably just pull those stitches out with my seam ripper so I can get in there and trim that away. Yeah. So if I've forgotten to do this, by the time you get the file, just cut as close to you can and pull the stitches out. That's just to carry it across so you don't have so many ties on the back. But I wasn't thinking about the fact that we have to trim out that piece of material. Okay, so moving on. I don't know how much time I have on my battery. I hope I got enough. So this one's going to be a little bit trickier to trim out because of all the curves. So Kimberly likes to do it the hard way for you. But you know what? Sometimes it takes a little bit of pain to get the good stuff. In my machine, actually, I can pull this hoop out of the way, and so I have more room to work. There's a little button that I can do that with. So if you have a 500E, go ahead and do that to give yourself some more room. These little curves, I made them a little bit, not tight, not too tight, so. And see, I'm just trying to get as close to those stitches as I can all the way around. And holding the vinyl and using the vinyl as leverage. Now this has got more of the knit backing instead of the fuzzy stuff. So I'm not as worried about getting the fuzzies in my satin stitch. I mean, it still could, because it is knit. If it was like the marine vinyl, that would be the best, because it has, or the canvas backed vinyl would be really good for this applique. The stuff from my embroidery, sparkle canvas is really great for applique because it has a nice solid feel to it, and it also has a good backing to it. Okay, now I gotta come in from this angle and cut that loose so I can get to it. And you know, I made this one big piece, but in retrospect, probably would be easier to cut if it was 2 pieces. I might change that and just make it 2 pieces. Because the what do you call the thing on the eyeglasses? The nose thing? That is not vinyl, that's gonna be a satin stitch. So yeah. Hopefully I can get some screen grabs from this video for the PDF. Yeah, that will make cutting this away easier if I just make it in 2 pieces. Sometimes the little hoop attachment pieces here get in your way. All right. And I may go ahead and fast forward and cut out the trimming of this one, because you guys got the idea now. So you don't need me to sit here and trim all this on your face. On your face, in your face. These applique scissors are worth the money. These are Gingers. I actually bought some Klaus on Amazon, and they're not as nice as the Gingers. So save up for when Joann's doesn't have them on sale and does have a 40% off coupon and buy them, or just go ahead and fork over the money for regular price on Amazon. I wish that Kai had this kind. All they have is the kind I was just showing you, little black handled ones. So they are bent, but they don't have the duck bill on them. And the duck bill is what really helps you not cut into the material that you don't want to cut off. I'm over here talking when I just told you guys I was going to cut this part out. But maybe I won't. See, now you saw I just cut into my bean stitch, but I'm not too worried about that because the satin stitch is going to cover it over. So next we're going to go ahead, and this would be the time when you want to go ahead and put some extra stabilizer underneath here. And we're going to do I'm going to change the color and do silver for those little lenses. And then I'll switch back to the blue to do the outline satin stitch on the flowers. And it'll do the little nose brim as well. And when that's done, we'll almost be done with the little bag. It's really cute. All right. All right, make sure our lining is still out of the way. All right, I'm going to switch to the silver thread. Luckily for me, I already have it up here. See if this will work for us. No, of course not. Every once in a while it'll work. And yeah, don't leave in comments about having to press the little special lock and putting the presser foot down. Doesn't matter. Does not matter when I'm using a 9014 needle, especially if the eye has gotten old and used and worn. So older needles. Okay. So now we're going to run the satin stitches for all the rest of the glasses. And I am going to cut this out. You guys don't need to sit here and watch me do all the satin stitching. Okay, we're all done with the satin stitching. See, that's all done. And now we're ready to go ahead and turn over to the back and fold our lining down again. Now it'll be down for good, so you can tape it really well. I like to keep the corners taped because, and this tape's getting a little old, so I'm going to get new, because if you keep using, usually you can get 2 or 3 uses out of it, but if you don't replace it, then it'll fold up on you when you're stitching underneath, and your lining will get out of whack. And that's not a good thing. So usually 2, 3, maybe even 4 times. All right. So now we're ready to run the placement for the optional D-ring strap connector. And I'm going to keep a very close eye because my machine, when it likes to do the tail, it likes to move all the way around, and I don't want it to hit the zipper pull. In fact, I'm going to pull the zipper pull out of the way. This is optional. If you're planning to just use this and toss it in your purse, you don't need the D-ring strap connector. But these purses, I'm just calling it a purse. These eyeglass cases are actually big enough that you can actually use them, you know, just for a cute little wristlet. Right, so what I want you guys to pay attention to is you need to make sure you have enough room between your hardware and your presser foot. So I don't want this close, because if I do, my presser foot's going to hit it. For me, it's usually about a 1/2 inch is a good enough amount. And so we're going to go ahead and tape that down. And then we're going to tack it down with the bean stitch. And then it'll get tacked down a 3rd time. Wait, yeah, it'll get tacked down 3 times altogether. So we're going to tack it down now with a bean stitch. Then it'll get tacked down when we do the exterior of the bag, and then when we do the lining. So when you're working on it in a hoop bag, if this is all new for you, the construction is quite a bit different than when you're sewing it on your sewing machine. On your sewing machine, generally, for a wristlet, you would have the lining sides matching and the exterior sides matching. I'm trying to do this without taking this off, and I'm thinking I made a bad choice with that. Okay. So normally that's how you have it set up. So we're going to run stitch 21. But in the hoop, we don't have the luxury of being able to have enough space to do the lining together and the exterior together. I mean, there are some pattern makers out there that make bags that big for the really big hoops, like the I just lost it. Stellar, and all those big machines that cost like $10,000 to $20,000. But I don't know that there's enough of a market for those size bags. I have a couple people who can test them, but there's just not much of a market, and it's so much harder to test. So I'm going to go ahead and tape this down just to keep it out of the way. All right, so now we're ready to do our top. So my bags are a little bit different than other designers. Other designers wait and they stitch everything around at the end. I don't do that. I do mine all in pieces. Normally I have the zipper pull out of the way until we get the exterior stitched down. But since we're using the zipper tabs, of course, it's in the way. So we want to pull this all the way down here. We're going to flip over to the back. Make sure that our lining doesn't come loose. And this time we want to put the most straight edge of our lining with the top of the zipper. Make sure it's evenly placed. And then tape it down. And be ginger because I already cut the stabilizer loose behind the zipper, so we don't want it to come undone. I'm going to put some right here in the middle. Okay, so that's all that is. Now we're going to flip it back over, and we're ready to put our exterior back on. So again, I have the Decoville out of the seam allowance, so I want this piece to go against the top of my zipper. And I'm going to center this over here. And if you need to peek underneath and make sure that it's centered, do that. I know a lot of digitizers do it much different than me, and they stitch around every step of the way. I just don't do that because I do everything the way I do it on a sewing machine. And when you do all that extra stitching, first of all, it's a waste of thread, but the other issue is it makes the seams really thick because you have all that thread in them. And I just don't like that. I just do mine the way it makes sense to me, and they do theirs the way it makes sense to them. Okay. So again, this is going to be a partial seam. And again, if your machine is small enough to make it, or you're on a multi-needle, then go ahead and switch the colors and just do all one step. But my machine cannot get past that. I don't want to hit that zipper pull and break a needle. And when you break a needle, you risk the timing on your machine getting off. So bring it all the way to the opposite end. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and flip it over to the back and carefully fold up our lining and carefully finger press it. And it's going to stay out of up here for the next 2 steps. Tape that down. And we're going to go ahead and top stitch. It's going to go through this lining as well. I'm actually going to pull this tautly and pull it to the front of the hoop, just to make sure it stays tautly. All right. And now you have a choice if you want to top stitch through your vinyl, so it's on the back as well. I don't always do it because sometimes it can leave the D-ring strap connectors looking a little wonky, but since we're not using the D-ring strap connectors on the top of the bag, we can go ahead and do it on this. So all you're going to do is make sure you're on a firm surface, and again, I put that Decoville on it, so it made it really nice and helped me fold it out of the way really nicely. And then go ahead and tape it down. Then we're going to top stitch. And just like we did before, we're gonna move our zipper pull out of the way when we get to it. And if you need to pull it, mine's, because I got the Decoville in it, it's okay, but if you need to, you can pull this to the side and tape it. Actually, since it's offset on your hoop, you can even hold your hand out on it. Oh, this looks like, did I get this off a little bit? Off kilter? I think I pulled this too hard. My top stitch does not look like it's lined up right. Okay.
How do you spell inventory? Inventory. Hey Siri, how do you spell inventory?
Okay.
Mommy, how do you spell inventory?
I'm on the video, Grayson. Siri is telling you right now. I will double check that one because it looked like it was a little bit off there. And I don't need to raise my presser foot. I just need to move this zipper pull down there out of the way. Oops. Yeah, I think pulling the stabilizer out early made it a little bit less stable, and I'm not sure if I like that. So it's pulled it a little bit here, but that's okay. All right, so now we're ready to go ahead. We're going to leave the lining up where it is on the back, and we're just going to fold this exterior panel down. So now you can go ahead and just leave this zipper pull where it's at. And you want to pull this lining as tautly as you can and tape it. The more tautly you pull it, the nicer your final bag will look. So we are up to step 26, almost done. Usually what I do is I start at the top on one side, I go down to the middle, and then I make sure that D-ring is still out of the way. I go down to the middle, and then I do a few carry stitches. Oh, you know what? I'm pushing on my machine here. I don't want to do that. Sorry. I do a few carry stitches down to get the hoop to the other side. And if you need a stiletto or something to help guide this, I didn't get my stiletto, I'm just using a screwdriver, but don't put your fingers in there. You see how sometimes it wants to come up. So we're gonna come over here and we're gonna do a few travel stitches, and then we're gonna come up here and start all over. And the reason we do that is if we don't, you see how it wanted to get baggy in here. So if we just went like this all the way around, we get a big old pucker up here at the top of our bag. And we don't want that. If you do get a tiny pucker at the bottom of the bag, it's a little bit easier to cover in the seam. You can kind of hide it a little bit when you're pressing the seam out. You see, this is actually wanting to kind of pucker now. I didn't tape it down well enough, but it's going to be okay. It's the back of our bag, and again we have a travel stitch to take us over to the other side. I do that because there are some machines that have a hard time going from south to north and back again, and we don't want to travel and get stuck on the D-ring. Okay, so we're almost done. And see, I did get a little piece of tape that came out of there that might have been pulling on me a little. Now, if you haven't already removed the zipper stabilizer, this is the time you would want to do that then. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and pull our lining down as tautly as we can, and we're going to tape it down and do our last stitch. Now, the last stitch is going to do the same thing. It's going to start at the top. It's going to go to the middle, but this time it's going to leave an opening for us to turn the bag, the eyeglass case in this situation, not a bag. It's going to leave it for us to turn it inside out. Yeah, I don't like pulling the stabilizer out sooner. It seems to be causing me issues, so I won't recommend doing that. Stick with doing it the way Kimberly does it. I'll have to ask Amanda what she does differently, because it definitely made this a little bit more unstable up here. So do your follow the PDF and do your removal now. And I'm taping a lot because this tape, those corners will come loose. And then you'll have to redo this step. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and push this down. And we are on step 27, which is actually our last step. It says 28, but we're not doing 28. 28 is just to make us not go back to the center of the hoop and get stuck. See, I might have even needed to switch up to a 100 needle there, because did you see how that kind of struggled right there? That's a sign for you that you need a bigger needle. You see it struggling, because there's a lot of bulk right here since I have that Decoville on here. But it stayed lined up, so I think we're good. And it's going to do the same thing here. And this is where you can kind of help with a stiletto or something to coax it down. And now this is not going to be the easiest seam to turn because it's curved, but you can do it. All right, before we unhoop, we want to turn over and make sure that none of our lining came undone. We have our opening right here for our bag. Turning. I'm going to go ahead and move my hoop out of the way now. Now this is always the hardest part for me to stay in the frame view. So I'm going to apologize in advance if I get in and out of it. But most of these steps all have fine detailed pictures in the PDF. But a lot of people are more visual learners and they like the YouTube videos. So I wanted to do at least one for the series. I actually have 5. I actually just thought of another one today. So, but nobody wants to buy all of them. So I'm not going to have a bundle. They'll be listed individually. But I will probably, if I can figure out how to do it on Etsy, do a coupon where if you buy like 3 of them, you get a discount, something like that. So don't quote me on that, but I'm going to try. Okay, now I need my good scissors. So these are the Kai 7205. These are amazing. They're well worth the money. And I'm just going to go around and roughly cut away the stabilizer on the top here. And then I'll just show you my little trick for cutting the vinyl. So what I like to do is if you hold, so the lining is on the bottom, right? If you hold the stabilizer and pull it back, well, this has got fabric on it, so it's not really, if it was all vinyl, it'd be different. You can actually get in here and then trim away your vinyl. Because if you're doing vinyl, you can cut it to 1/8 of an inch. But with cotton fabric, you need to leave a 1/4 inch seam allowance. But see how that helps? You can cut it easily. And you can just do that all the way around. But I want to make sure I don't cut into my lining because we're going to leave that a little bit longer. Okay, so let me just cut this big piece off real quick. So again, 1/4 inch. Oops, my camera is peculiar here because I have it on the peculiar. That's not the word I wanted. Peculiar. The word that means dangerous. I have that charger plugged in, so it's wanting to fall. What's the word I'm looking for? All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and keep holding this back so I can trim it and not have to worry about damaging my lining. All right. Oh, these big pieces, save on to those. Those make really good to trim out the or to support satin stitching when you're doing it. So now I'm going to go ahead and trim out the stabilizer as close as I can get. And again, I told you I'm going to try and do it on the camera, and here I am. I'm already off camera. I know it. I'm sorry, guys. It's so hard to do this. I need to have 2 cameras set up so I can switch to one looking at me so you can see me doing it. Okay, now we're going to go here. We can cut this big piece off because apparently don't know how to measure. And then here we want to go ahead and leave a notch like this on either side, and then trim out our 1/4 inch. So our notch is about a 1/2 inch. Leaving that extra bit of fabric makes it easier to close the bag, or in this case, the eyeglass case. And there's a little curve up here, so make sure you follow that curve because we don't want that bulk in our seam. All right, and then we just need a 1/2 inch here. It looks like it's uneven. All right, so there's what it looks like on this side. And we can go ahead and fold this back, and I can see I can trim off a little bit more there. Now, what you want to do is see these curves. The way you get nice curves is you put notches in it, and that helps when the material folds back on itself. It allows it to spread out. So just go in here with your scissors, and everywhere there's a curve, which is almost this whole area, do a little notch. You want to stay about 1/8 of an inch away from the final stitches, and do on every 1/4 inch or so. But you take the time to do this, you'll have a nice smooth bottom. If you don't, then it's going to be puckery and it won't be as curvy all the way around. And I'm really regretting that I added that Decoville to the vinyl because it's really thick. But it felt really thin to me, so. Sources for what I'm working with today. The vinyl, both of them, the shiny one and the deep plummy color, were from Bodio. The lining is Tula Pink. And I told you I got that plaidish material from Blue Calla. She had some really cute poles, and I had to order them, and I saw that fabric. I'm like, oh, I have to have that fabric. So I'm going to trim this off a little bit more up here because I don't want that. See how it was staying up there? I don't want that in my seam. Don't trim too much, though, because this could be, you don't want to have your zipper come undone. Okay, now I'm going to come back over here and do the little trim outs, the little triangles. Now, a lot of people would just like cut. And I learned this from Debbie Hunker. When you're using this curve, which is a concave, right? You don't want to do if you just do the slices, it's not going to help you because the material is still going to try and fold in on itself. But when you have a convex curve, then you can just do the little snips. But for these kind of curves, you need to reduce the material in the seam. So take your time so you don't cut into your seam and just notch it all the way around. One of my favorite vendors, she actually got these notching scissors, but they didn't work on it. I was so bummed. They would have been perfect. And you can, if your pinking scissors are strong enough, like if you're using all cloth, you could use your pinking scissors as well. Okay, and this is a soft enough curve that I'm not too worried about notching this, also because this is where we're going to turn it. So you see it's all notched around. Some of the notches didn't come out, but that's okay. All right, now we're going to turn it right side out. I'm sorry, we're going to turn it lining side out. And then what I do is I use permanent glue, Fabri-Tac, to close the birthing hole. You can use double stick tape that's permanent. You can hand sew it closed. I have a few people who actually just go and put it on their serger and serge the bottom. So however you want to do it, it's your bag. I'm not going to tell you. And so I'm off camera again. I'm so sorry. I'm just working it through the hole. And just take your time and just keep pushing and it'll come through. Hemostats are really good to have. I misplaced mine, bought a new bag, and I have no idea where my son put them. So now I like to try and push the bag, the curves all the way out while the lining side is out, because it makes it easier to close the bag, the birthing hole, when you get the whole seam out. So just keep working on it and you'll get it all out. All right. So now we need some of these little wonder clips. I use this Fabri-Tac or 3-in-1 by Beacon, and it has I believe it's 24 hours for permanent hold, but it has an instant hold within like a minute. And so it actually, by the time I get done gluing one end, the first end is already dry, tacky enough to move on. Make sure you keep the red lid on this. This one did not have a red lid on it, because it'll come out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this forward, so I'm at the seam, and I'm going to put the glue along that and pull. See how this automatically wanted to fold under? I'm going to pull that folded edge into the glue. So I just start a small section, especially when you're doing a curved one. And it's hard to get the glue out when it starts to get old. You can't leave it upside down because it'll squirt out. Even with the red lid on, it'll come out if it's upside down. Ask me how I found that out the hard way on my good furniture. All right, come on. I'm sorry, Grayson, can you come get me the other glue that fell? This one's not coming out for some reason. Oh, let me see if I can put a pin in it. Sorry guys, we're having issues with the glue here. Try it again. Can I get it to come out?
Where is it?
On the floor. Thank you. Oh, now it finally is coming out.
Oh, it magically appeared.
All right. I'm going to switch over to the other one now. This is not working very well. Okay, so then pull up that seam just so it touches the thread. The folded edge is right on your stitches. And then put one of these little clips there. Oh. I'm going to see what's wrong with that glue later. Oh, that's not good. I took the whole lid off, not the red lid. See, there's a little red lid. That's what you take off to access the dispenser. Now this one's giving me a hard time. Oh my goodness gracious. All right. All right. Let's see if we have better luck with this one. All right. This is the 3-in-1. I'm not sure what the difference of them really is, to be honest, but I do find the Fabri-Tac does this temporary hold faster than the 3-in-1. 3-in-1 takes a tiny bit longer. Still usually done by the time I'm done, but you can feel it's a little damper. Okay, so now keep working across. Now if you're using the tape, then you would have to go ahead and get your iron out, because most of the tape requires using an iron to heat set it. But with the glue, you don't need to worry about that. So I just do a couple inches at a time, so I don't have to get this glue. Try to keep the glue off my hands because it's kind of hard to get off. Invariably I get it on like that. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it helps. All right, one more and we're done. So this last little bit here. And then we're gonna let it sit for just a few seconds to cure up a little bit. And then we'll turn the bag to the right side. And if you don't want to get your fingers in here, this is a good time for the stiletto. Okay, now put the glue lid back on. Find the glue lid for that one later. Get my scraps out of the way here. And you really shouldn't cut everything on your sewing machine like I'm doing here, because it's going to get inside, so I have to be careful. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and pull this side down. It's probably ready to go. Oh, see, the side's still a little wet, but I'm going to be careful. I think it's okay. All right, so now we're going to go ahead, reach inside, and finish opening up your zipper all the way, at least as far as you can get it. And then go ahead and turn, just like we did before. Start at a corner. I'm starting at the corner that's already dry, and turn it to the right side. Just go gently, because you do not want to tear your seams. And once you get like one big corner turned, usually the rest of it just comes along for the ride. I'm a little worried I didn't use extra interfacing with my silver lenses there, and it got a little thick, so I'm a little worried on that. So make sure you use extra interfacing, because the satin is pretty heavy. It's 4 millimeters to make sure it covers it all. You don't want it to cut through your vinyl. It's be a real bummer to go through all this work and then have it cut through your vinyl. Okay, so now just reach inside with your fingers and start pushing the bottom curve out. And this is when a bamboo stick or some other device, I like to use the rounded edge of the hemostats, but I found this is actually a little thing for I have one of these little carts from Michael's, and that's actually to hold a roll on the side, and actually it works pretty well to get these curves out, or the seams out. But I like to do as much as I can with my finger first, because I know my finger is not going to push through the lining and tear my bag. Let's see how smooth that is now, because we did all that extra trimming. It's almost very smooth. We'll take this tape off of our D-ring, and then we can actually just pull our D-ring, and it'll help pull that out of the seam. Okay, so now we have our little tabs over here. So all you need to do is take your pointing device, push this lining down like that, and then pull the tab up at the same time. So push down on the lining and pull the tab up, and then just work it a little bit and you'll get it out. Oh, my stitches are not good there. So I'll get tired of that side. I'll go over to this side and do this side for a minute. So again, just reach in there and push the lining in and pull the tab out. This one I can actually do with my finger. So this is not a true zipper tab, because when you make a bag on the sewing machine, a zipper tab doesn't get sewn into the seam. But it just is in the hoop style of zipper tab. It just adds a nicer finish to the bag, and I like to do them sometimes. Some of my bags have them, but because of the extra steps of having to stop and remove that zipper pull, I don't do it all in all my bags. Although I have a couple of testers who would like it if I did. But especially because I have a lot of my bags are more geared towards new people, new embroiderers or new in the hoop people. That step is a little bit confusing. It's totally different than what they're used to from other designers. So I don't do it too often. All right, there we go. So now, I didn't get this all the way out yet, I can tell. My D-ring's not, see right here? It's not all the way out yet. There we go. So just go around and make sure you actually do have it out everywhere. And these little rounded edges, when you rub it alongside the seam, it kind of, you kind of roll it with your fingers too. It pushes that seam out. You can't really open up the seam like you would do if you were like using an iron, but it does kind of give that same illusion that you opened up that seam. Okay. And this is a small. And there we go. How cute is that? Flower Power. So I'll go blind for a minute here and show you my glasses in it. The small should fit like most standard glasses. And there's enough room there you can put your little cleaning cloth. And then the extra small is just a slight, it's the same height, but it's just a little bit more narrow. That would be good for kids. And then the large is good for like the big sunglasses. All right, guys, there you go. Flower Power. So this is the Dazzle 2 collection. And today's Friday. Hopefully I'll have the video done tonight, if not Saturday, but this will be released the weekend of March 6th, 7th. And 5 of them. There's aviator lenses, 50s Geek, Flower Power, what I'm calling 70s hippie, which is like John Lennon-esque. And then the original ones, which is kind of like the vintage cat eye, vintage look of eyeglasses that most people think of when they think of eyeglasses. Oh, and the zipper pull and the tape is from the zipper pull is from Luke's Hardware. And I'm not sure the tape is either from them or from Wizardry. I'll have to double check because this is number 3. So again, this vinyl and this vinyl is from Bodio. This fabric is from Blue Calla. And this pole is from Luke's Hardware. And the tape is number 3. So it's either from Luke's or from Wizardry. All right, guys, I hope you really enjoyed this video. And leave a comment below if you want. Make sure you subscribe so you'll get notification when I release new patterns. And I will put links down below for all of the products I've used. And yes, my son's reminding me, if you subscribe, you'll get notification when I release new videos. But I usually release new videos with new patterns. Thanks, everybody. Good night.